Today we're digging into, well, a really surprising story in the audio world,
Yeah, it involves Massimo, the medical tech company.
right? They bought Sound United, think Denon, Marantz, Bowers and Wilkins, those guys back in 2022.
And now, just a couple of years later, they're selling it all off to Harman.
Harman, who already owns JBL, Harman Kardon, a ton of big audio names.
Exactly. We've been looking at an article from audioholics.com to really unpack this.
Hmm?
And our goal, really, is to figure out first, why did Massimo even get into audio?
Yeah, why?
What does this big sale to Harman mean for the industry? And maybe most importantly, what could it mean for you if you care about good audio gear?
Okay, so Massimo, medical technology, vital signs monitoring, that kind of thing.
Yeah, their core business.
So when they suddenly dropped, what was it, over $1 billion?
$1.025 billion, yeah, on Sound United in 2022.
It made you kind of stop and think, right? What are they doing?
Totally. It was a huge move, made them a major player in home audio overnight.
And this was happening while they were also trying to launch their own W1 smartwatch for consumer health monitoring.
Right. It felt a bit scattered, like a pharma company suddenly buying up restaurant chains, as you said. Just unexpected.
Definitely unexpected. And the market seemed to agree.
Oh, yeah. Massimo's stock tanked, dropped something like 40% the day after they announced the Sound United deal.
Wow. 40%.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong signal of skepticism. Doubts about them stepping so far outside their main expertise.
And it wasn't just outside investors raising eyebrows, was it? There was some internal stuff going on, too.
Apparently so. Joe Kiani, the founder and CEO back then, he seemed to genuinely believe there was synergy there.
Synergy.
Oh. Well, the idea, or the stated idea anyway, was using Sound United's global distribution network. All those retail connections.
To sell his consumer medical devices, like the smartwatch.
Exactly. Get those into more homes using the audio channels. That was the pitch.
But not everyone bought it.
Not at all. You had activist investors, led by a guy named Quentin Coffey, who were really pushing back.
Okay.
Their argument was pretty simple. Massimo makes money from medical tech. Focus on that. Don't get distracted by consumer audio.
And Kofi.
Yeah.
He's now vice chairman of the board.
He is, which tells you how much weight that argument eventually carried. Investors were worried maybe about divided attention, maybe just lack of experience in the audio market.
Makes sense. And then there was the whole Apple thing hanging over them, too, right? The patent fight.
Yeah, the legal battles over the Apple Watch's health features. That's a huge, expensive fight to pick with Apple.
For sure.
Likely just added to the board's concerns,
Mm-hmm.
Let's focus our resources. Let's not spread ourselves too thin, fighting giants and entering new markets all at once.
So all that pressure builds up.
And eventually, Joe Kiani steps down as CEO, late 2024 after a shareholder vote.
Which kind of paved the way for the sale.
Exactly. So now the sale is confirmed. Sound United goes to Harman.
For $350 million.
$350 million, which, compared to the billion they paid,
Yeah.
that's a significant loss.
Ouch. When's the deal supposed to close?
Expected by the end of 2025.
Okay, and let's just run through those brands again. Sound United is Denon Marantz.
Definitive Technology, Class, Polk Audio, ACIOs, Boston Acoustics, and of course, Bowers and Wilkins. Huge names.
Right, and they're joining Harman's lineup, which includes...
Harman Kardon, AKG, JBL, Mark Levinson, Archem, Revel, another powerhouse list.
So when you put those two portfolios together, wow, that's a dominant force in home audio and probably car audio, too.
Absolutely massive. And, it's interesting how Massimo kind of signaled this might be coming.
How so?
Well, back in April 2024, they created this separate division called Massimo Consumer,
Okay.
and they put the audio brands and their own consumer medical stuff into it.
Separating it from the main medical business.
Exactly. The Audioholics article points out it looked a lot like setting things up for a sale. Isolate the consumer bits, protect the profitable core medical business, make that look cleaner to investors.
Like sorting stuff before a garage sale. Keep pile, sell pile.
Pretty much. And analysts noticed Ted Green at Strategy apparently predicted the sale based on SEC filings.
Oh, really? What did the filings say?
They categorized the audio brands as discontinued operations.
Yeah, that's usually a pretty clear sign. Doesn't get much clearer.
Right. And the official statements from Massimo now just hammer that home, focus on the core.
So Coffee and the new CEO, what did they say?
Coffee talked about finding the right home for the audio brand so Massimo could focus on healthcare growth and profitability. The current CEO, Katie Simon, said basically the same. It aligns with their strategy, lets them focus resources on clinical needs.
Uh,
Even the COO, Blair Tripodi, mentioned their commitment to healthcare while saying they trusted Harman to grow the audio brands. It's all about refocusing.
and there's a little piece in the article suggesting that refocus might already be working. Something about medical device sales.
Yeah, interestingly, under the new CEO, Catherine Simon, the medical side of that Massimo consumer division has apparently seen sales rebound.
So maybe getting out of audio was, from their perspective, absolutely the right call for their main business.
It certainly seems to validate their strategy, yeah. Okay, so shift gears. What does this mean for the audio world? For you listening?
Right. What's Harman saying?
Well, Dave Rogers, president of Harman's lifestyle division, used the usual corporate language, strategic step forward, new avenues for growth, more choices to consumers.
Okay, standard press release stuff. But that language, strategic growth,
Mhm.
does it suggest they plan to invest?
That's the hope, isn't it? The Audioholics article suggests maybe it does mean investment, not just cutting costs or consolidating everything, strengthening the value proposition, more choices. It could mean good things.
But you always wonder with these huge mergers, what kind of growth?
Yeah,
Growth across the board or just pushing the high margin stuff?
that's the question. And you have to look at the market, right? Home audio isn't dying, but it's definitely changing. It's mixing with smart home tech, app ecosystem.
Yeah, it's all converging.
And Harman, with Samsung behind them, they've got the resources. They have the scale, the R&D potential to keep these brands relevant in that changing tech landscape.
So the author of the piece, Wade Robson, he sounded pretty positive overall.
Cheerily, yeah. He's framed it as a soft landing for Sound United. Better than being carved up by private equity.
Yeah, where the focus might just be stripping assets or short-term profit.
Exactly. Landing with a company that actually knows audio, like Harman, feels safer, maybe, for the brand's legacies.
But there's another side of that coin, right? Gene Delasala had some concerns.
He did, a more cautious take. His worry is about Harman becoming too dominant.
Like a monopoly, almost.
Well, maybe not a monopoly, but powerful enough to potentially squeeze out smaller, independent audio companies.
Yeah,
The ones that often drive niche innovation.
that's a valid concern. Less competition isn't always great for consumers.
And he also brought up the brand identity thing.
Hmm.
Especially for brands like Bowers and Wilkins, they have such a specific sound, such a dedicated following.
Yeah, B&W fans are serious.
Will Harman let them keep doing their own thing, keep their unique engineering and sonic signature? Or will everything start to sound harmonized, homogenized?
That's a really good point. People get attached to these brands, the sound, the history. It's not just about specs on a page.
Absolutely. There's an emotional connection. So the idea that this identity could get diluted, that's a real worry for enthusiasts.
And for you listening, trying to, really get a handle on the audio world, this is a major shift. It's going to affect what products are out there, how they develop.
And it raises that innovation question again. Does combining all this R&D power lead to faster breakthroughs? Or does less competition mean less pressure to innovate and stand out? It could go either way.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Massimo took a surprising detour into audio with Sound United.
Didn't quite work out, faced investor pressure, refocused on their core medical business.
And now they've sold Sound United to Harman at a significant loss.
Right. Creating this new massive audio entity under Harman.
And for you, the listener. Well, on one hand, this could mean more choice, maybe cool new products thanks to Harman's resources.
But on the other hand, there are real questions about market consolidation, what happens to smaller players, and whether these classic brands will keep their unique character.
Which leaves us with a big question for you to think about. With this new audio giant taking shape, what kinds of innovations or maybe shifts do you actually expect to see?
Yeah, and what does this kind of consolidation really mean for the diversity of sound out there, for the survival of those smaller independent companies that audiophiles often cherish?
Definitely something to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us today.